Hi everybody, welcome back for science, and we're going to continue to observe our bean seeds as they grow and change, and we'll talk about that. And as well, we're going to learn the difference between living things and non-living things. So to be ready for today, I need you to have your bean seeds ready to go. Okay, leave them in your baggie for now, but bring it down, have it beside you, and your booklet. Okay, have those off to the side. And we also need these 4 items that were sent out this week for you: the compare and learn, the word vocabulary, this piece of paper, and we'll talk about that later on in the lesson, and this one. It's a fun fact sheet. It's not a working sheet, but it's a knowledge sheet, something for you to look through and study about different parts of the plants. And some of these words have been in our spelling bonus words, and some we're starting to use for science in some of the work that you're doing. So use some of these words, if you know what they are, into your observation booklet for your bean seed bag. I want you to think like scientists now, think like your observers, and using the proper science words. Okay? And have a pencil ready, and stop the video if you need to go get those items, and come on back. Okay, thanks for being ready, everybody. So, as I said, our bean seeds are to the side, and today we're going to talk first about living things and non-living things. Well, we have a big, large world all around us, and we can put everything in it into 2 big categories. One is living and one is non-living. So let's talk about what it means to be living things. In order to get into that category, what do we need to have to be a living thing? Yeah, so we need to have air, and we have air all around us. And in the air, we humans, we breathe in the oxygen that's in the air. Remember the gas we talked about in matter and science? So it's an invisible gas we see, so the oxygen comes in. And what do we breathe out? Yeah, carbon dioxide. So oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. So if you can do that, you're a living thing. The next item is water. We all need water to survive. Human bodies are made up of a large percent of water. So we use a lot of water in a day, and we've all been drinking from our water bottles to be healthy and hydrated. So water is the second thing. So what's the third thing? What do you think the third thing is to qualify to be a living thing? Let's see, we breathe air, we take in the water. What's next? Yeah, we need food, or we would call it nutrients from our food. Nutrition. Remember when we studied the Canada Food Guide and the nutrition and all the food groups give us to help our bodies be healthy, and all the products we need to keep our cells in our bodies moving and healthy. So living things then need what? 3 things. What are they? Air, oxygen, water, nutrients. And you can take a look onto your word vocabulary as I'm speaking here, and you can circle those words that we just said. Okay, find them in there. I said carbon dioxide is what we breathe out. I said air is around us. I said we need nutrients. I said we need water. So anything that I'm saying, I hope, is printed on here for you. Okay? So that's what it means to be a living thing. Well, let's talk about that. Before we write this down now, I want you to think, let's see, there's 3 big categories of living things, 3 of them. So I'm going to pull over my chart here, and just like you have there, I'm going to write living and non-living, and this, you don't write it down because you have it there in front of you, okay? So living things, we know we need air, water, and nutrients. Well, people are living things. So I want you to write people down. People. Can you think of all the people that are around you? Well, you're a person, so you could think about you. You can write down me beside people. You can write down mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, all the people we know about. Okay, Mr. Davids, Mrs. Zeki, we're all living things. We're people, right? We have water, air, and nutrients. That's what we need. So what's another category of living things? other than people? Some of you might have it in your house right now. Yeah, animals. So another category would be animals. Animals are living things. Let's check. Do they need air? Yes, they need oxygen. Do they need water? Yes. Do they get food, nourishment, or nutrients? Yes. Think about your cats or your dogs or your fish or your hamsters. Okay, maybe you have a reptile. Maybe you have an aquarium of lots of fish. Think about the outside animals. Think about cows on the fields that produce our milk. What about giraffes? Beautiful giraffes. They take in the oxygen. Yes. They drink water. Yes. And they eat food. They eat the tree leaves, right? So those are requirements to be a living thing. And certainly animals fall into that. So people and animals. Yes. Now, there's one more category that is a living thing category. And I kind of have it sitting right here. What do we got? Plants. Yes. Plants are living things. Let's write that down under living things. Plants. So plants also, they need those three elements. Well, let's talk about what plants need. Plants need the air. They're a little different than the humans or people. They don't breathe in oxygen. Actually, plants breathe in the carbon dioxide. And we're going to talk about how they breathe it in. They don't have lungs like we do. But just now to know, plants take in the carbon dioxide. They circulate it. And then they give off oxygen. That's the opposite to us. So it's a cycle we have. Isn't that interesting? How humans breathe in oxygen and give off carbon dioxide. The plants take in that carbon dioxide and give back oxygen. That's why it's important to keep all the trees in the world. And that's why people are always talking about not chopping down the rainforest or destroying it, or to not have, reduce all the trees in the world, because they give us oxygen. And we, living things, need that oxygen to live. Okay. So those are the three big categories. And I'd like you to write that into your box as well, please. Okay. And you can pause the video if you need to stop and do so. I think you can see it there. And you've heard me talk about it. Okay. So carrying on now, let's go to non-living things. Well, I also have, this is also non-living. It doesn't need air, water, or food. But this is a special non-living thing that I have sitting with my plant here. Yes, it's Dominic's rock. Oh, that's who gave it to me, was Dominic. He told me on my blueprint, he said, Mrs. Zeki, that was me that gave you the rock. So thank you again, Dominic. So this is a non-living thing. Does it need air to survive? Does it need water to survive? Does it need food to survive? No. Okay, so non-living things. So let's write down a couple more ideas of non-living things. What could you write down? Let's see, I'm going to write down Dominic's rock. Apostrophe S, because we know the rock belongs to Dominic, and that's part of our language arts that we've been studying a lot. So Dominic's rock, what else can you write down? Now you're writing with a pencil. That's a non-living thing. Let's do that. Pencil. What's another non-living thing you can think of? Sure, you can write down the chair you're sitting on, or maybe the table you're sitting at. Maybe you're sitting on the couch. Maybe you're sitting on the carpet, on the floor. Those are all non-living things. They don't need air, they don't need the water, and they certainly don't need food, okay, for nourishment. Another part of being a living thing, and this is part of why I have the plant here to show you, that living things also make other living things. So for example, if I just left this rock, could it make another rock out of itself? Nope. A rock is a rock, and it's just going to stay there. Over time, erosion will change this rock, and we've studied that in our landforms. Remember erosion. But the plants, Is this going to grow? Yes. Could it make another plant? Absolutely. Other new plants are growing all the time inside here. This is one kind of plant. It's a flowering plant. Think of other plants. Think of trees. Think of carrots in your garden. Maybe think of corn stalks that grow. And think about, let's see, big trees that drop their seeds in the fall because they're ready to reproduce. They're ready to make more baby trees, right? So that's what is part of being a living thing, is that you can grow and reproduce. You can make another kind like yourself, okay? That's really important today because you're going to learn about that later on. So let's talk again about our plants and our living things. So now that you've finished writing in your boxes, everything that I have here, and always pause the video to catch up, okay? You don't have to listen to me talk and then try to remember, because at school we would be pausing and we would write it down and then I would move forward. It's the same on here. All right, so we're going to look at this piece here, plants, and 4 elements do plants need. Well, we talked about 3. We said air, carbon dioxide for them. The second one was water, yes. The third thing was nutrients. So let's write that down here. Number 1, air, and right beside that, write down carbon dioxide, because that's what they take from the air. So I'm writing in here, everybody. I'm writing in here, air, carbon dioxide. Number 2 was, water. Let's write down water, because we know we have to water the garden, water the grass, okay? Water the flowers, water the trees. So write down 2, water. Number 3, we talked about nutrients. Let's write that down, nutrients, because plants need nutrients, yeah. Now, they don't eat food like we have food. You have to think about what kind of plant food they would have. Think about maybe Miracle-Gro. That's what parents would probably use. That's what I use to help this plant stay healthy. It's nutrients. It's plant food for the plant, okay? So nutrients is number 3. And the last one, which we haven't talked about because so far our bean seed is growing without number 4. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. But we're going to need soil. So inside here, you'll notice that there's soil, or we call it dirt, but it's actually soil, which means it has nutrients, plant food, in it, okay? So it needs that. And I'll show you how that's going to work later on. But for now, you need to know that part. So we have 4 elements for a plant to survive as a living thing. And the soil, yes, it will feed it, but it also helps to stabilize it. Once you plant it, then it has roots to go down further, and then it grows bigger. Without being in soil, it'll fall over, okay? So think of the big trees out there in the forest, and if you go for walks, take a look at a big tree. Notice how big the trunk is, the base of the tree, and then it goes into the ground, and it will go a long way underground. You just don't see it. But it has to have stability. It has to hold it up straight. So soil is used for 2 things, okay? To feed it and to stabilize it, keep it strong. Okay, so that's the first part of our lesson today. We're comparing and learning about living things versus non-living things. Now, we finished our 2 categories here, and we've learned about the 4 elements that plants need. Let's revise that or review that. 1 is air, water, nutrients, soil. Good. If you need to take a break, you can pause here to finish that up. We're going to talk about the bottom part in the second part of the video, okay? So now let's get ready, and please have your bean seed ready for observation. So let's take it out. And I'm going to take out, I got my backup bean in here, but I'm going to use my other bean that's really growing well. Now, I'm hoping that a lot of you have had the same success as I've had at my house, and some aren't and some are. Some are even better. Now, I am filming this video for you a week ahead. So by the time you watch this YouTube video, your bean might look bigger than mine, and it should be growing. So I'm going to notice that we first had our seed and something popped out, and you've all been observing and telling me that when you send your work in. And look at what's happening to my bean now. Can you see? Whoo! So if I turn it to the back side, that's the original seed. And it was hard. Remember, we observed that it was hard. And then we soaked it in water, and then it got soft and mushy, and that kind of woke it up. So a seed is now a living thing. We've given it air, water, the dampness in the paper towel, and let's see, nutrients. Well, did we feed the bean seed? No. So where did it get its nutrients from? Aha. Well, that's the next part of our lesson. I also notice that the roots have come out, right? And they're searching for something. What do you think they're searching for? Yeah, more water, okay? Now, what's the green part? What do you think that is? If your bean seed hasn't been growing, you can see mine. I'm trying to give you the best view. See, it's now green coming out. Wow. What's going on there? It's attached to the roots. Let's see. It's pretty green in there. Well, let's take a look. What I would like you to do is to please use this activity sheet here. This one right here. Have that one ready. Now, I'm going to show you that at the beginning, remember our bean seed was just a bean. There was nothing coming out of it. We observed that. But then as it started to grow and change, we noticed that the roots came out. But before that happened, just our bean seed, I have this piece of paper to cover. Let's take a look here. So imagine this is our bean seed, okay? When we first put it into our bowl or our baggie, either way, it was still just a bean seed. And it kind of looked like that. I mean, it was brownish, but this is yellow. So what do you think was happening inside? Well, this diagram shows you the inside. So this is the shell or the seed coat, the hard seed coat that you first noticed. And I'm going to take it off, but pretend that it's just you're looking down inside of it, that this is a see-through window now. So it's still inside that seed. Did you know there was already a baby plant in there? Ha! That's what was in there. And we first started to notice the roots were coming out in this middle part. Remember, they popped out? So right now, though, before that all happened, this baby plant was sitting in there. And it didn't start to grow or become a living thing until we gave it air, and we gave it some water, and we gave it light. Okay, so it needs the light. And so that's what woke it up. The sunshine or just the light on a cloudy day woke that up. So here's what I want you to notice. You see these lines? Now, this is what we've talked about in our science experiments. When we do a diagram, we just draw a straight line to it. We don't have an arrow on the end. We label that line so we know what we're pointing to. So I noticed this one is pointing right to the outside there. It's the hard shell. That's called the seed coat, and it's in your word bank here. Can you see that? It's called the seed coat. And a coat, boys and girls, is something like if you go outside and if it's chilly outside, you'll put on a coat, right? To protect you from the elements, to protect you from the cold winter, okay? And so imagine a seed is just like that. It has its own coat and it protects it. It keeps this baby plant inside, doesn't hurt it, nothing can harm it because it's all in a hard shell. It's in a hard coat. So that is the seed coat. So can you write seed coat on that line? And then on the inside, what's happening here is I notice that there's a root, okay? This was the root that came out first. It popped out the side because it all softened up and started to grow. So write root there. And this is pretty obvious. You can write that word that belongs to the leaves. That's the leaves. Okay. Leaves are already formed inside. Now here's the fun part for learning today too. This is really cool. This is pointing to the inside of the seed. What do you think's in there? Well, what's left? It says stored food. That's the nutrients. It's already built inside the seed. Science is pretty amazing. So every seed already has food waiting inside for the plant to use. It just has to be activated with air and water and light. That's what gets this plant to get growing. So write down stored food. Just use the word bank there. And when you have time, I'd like you to color that, right? The roots are going to be kind of whitish yellow because that's our roots that came out, right? And then this is the stem and these are the leaves. It's just a baby plant, we call it, or the science word, and I've written it on here for you, it's called embryo. And embryo is one of our spelling bonus words this week for that reason. So the embryo is a baby plant, okay? So it's waiting to grow inside that hard seed that all the time, and then we woke it up with air, water, and light, and we soaked it to get that going a bit faster. We don't need to soak it. We could have put it in the ground, but by putting it in the ground, we wouldn't see what's happening. So here we get to see and watch what's happening as it's growing. So that's pretty fascinating. I just find that science is amazing and exciting to learn about. So once you finish working on that, and remember you can always pause to do that, and if you want to color it before we go on, please do that. It's up to you. So back to our seed here. So imagine that that embryo was always inside there. And now once we woke it up, the roots came out, the stem is coming now, the stem of the plant, right? The center of the plant. And still inside here, in mine anyway, it's still closed inside. Okay, the leaves are still inside there. They're going to grow and get bigger. And this is the process called germination. And we had that word last week on our spelling. So germination is the process of what's happening, what you're watching here. It's germinating, it's growing, okay? Remember, to be a living thing, you need to be able to grow and change. Well, this is a living thing. It's growing and changing right in front of our eyes. Super exciting to see that. So the root's job, and we'll talk more in detail about this later, not today, but another time. The roots into the soil, or right now they're in the baggie with the water attached to the paper towel. They are looking for water and they're pulling the water up through the roots into the stem and feeding it to the baby plant or the embryo, right? So that's what's happening right now. And there's food inside giving that baby plant nutrients already. So that's where it's getting its nourishment from, is the stored food inside. So that's pretty cool. So now you have a lot of information to help you write in your observation booklet. You can talk about the growth and diagram, root, stem. Maybe by the time you see this video, your leaves are already appearing. So maybe you can add leaves to your diagram. Okay, so that's an important part. Now at the bottom of our worksheet here, this is the bean seed sequence. So far, and to the bottom, which hasn't happened yet, but let's write down what we have seen so far, okay? So the first thing we did when I had you open up that baggie that day, there was a seed inside. So on the first line, and you're gonna notice I'm using our math ordinal words, okay? First, what happened first? We had a seed. And it had a hard seed coat, right? The coat to protect it. So I'm going to write down seed coat and hard. And I'd like you to do that as well, please. Seed, first we had the seed, seed coat, and it was hard. Okay? And the second, ordinals, we're talking second thing we did was we soaked the seed, and we noticed that the seed coat got, what's the word I would probably use? Soft. That's right. So the seed coat got soft. You kind of woke it up. We helped it along. Okay. The third thing we did, we noticed, so after the seed was in your baggie for a few days, you started to notice the root coming out. That's right. So under third, on the third line, write root. Okay. And what do you think it was looking for? We already talked about that. Looking for water. Yes. Looking for water, right? The root looking for water. Okay, we've seen that sequence. The fourth thing that we noticed is, for me today, the embryo. So on the fourth line, please write embryo. And that's in your word vocabulary or your spelling word. You should be practicing that this week. So embryo, that's the baby plant. It started to emerge. Okay, so I'll put embryo, baby plant, and emerge or grow. I'm going to use different words for different, some people might like to use the word emerge, meaning coming out of it, or it's growing. Okay, it grow. So that's the fourth sequence that we have so far. If you have the fifth sequence happening, then I want you to add stem and leaves. Stem and leaves, if that's what you're seeing, okay? And we're going to stop here for that today. And I'll just show you how to write that there, because on the blackboard, the whiteboard at school, that's what I would write for you. Stem and leaves. Maybe they're popping out. Maybe you've seen those. If you haven't seen them, then use my bean seed as your diagram, I guess, is so that you can learn along with us, okay? So that is for today. That is all we're going to talk about today. And I'm happy that you came along for the observation of our bean seed and learning about living things versus non-living things. And we now know plants are very much a living thing because they need the air. And what do they need? The carbon dioxide from it. And what do they give off? Oxygen back into the air. What's the second thing that plants, the living thing, needs? Water. That's right. And the third thing that a plant needs? Yeah, nutrients. And it grows, it can change, and it can make other plants. This one is going to grow and change and get bigger. So it qualifies as a living thing. And we know Dominic's rock will look really pretty next to it on my patio, but it's not going to grow. It's not going to change. It doesn't need air. It doesn't need water, and it doesn't need nutrients, right? Okay, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed our lesson today. Take your time to fill those pages out. Use the word vocabulary anytime you need. And you can go ahead and color that now and color in your observation booklet. Write down some nice sentences. I want some super sentences. Lots of good description words. Lots of punctuation, please. And be careful with your spelling because now you have the plant fact sheet in front of you as well. Okay, boys and girls, nice to see you. Actually, I don't see you, but you see me. And hopefully we'll see you again soon. Bye for now, guys.